Imagine this exact scenario. You completely stop chasing. You don't make a scene, you don't argue, and you don't throw a tantrum. You simply pull your energy, your attention, and your focus back into your own world. At first, everything seems normal, but slowly, the very air between you two begins to shift. She starts acting strange, a little erratic, and highly reactive. For the very first time in your entire dynamic, she looks at you and sees absolute uncertainty. She can no longer predict your next move, and that unpredictability is the exact spark that flips her psychology upside down. Up until this moment, she took your presence for granted because it was guaranteed. The second that guarantee vanishes, the psychological power dynamic reverses completely. When a man first emotionally withdraws, it doesn't register to a woman as a permanent loss right away. Her ego won't allow it. Instead, she rationalizes your distance to maintain her sense of control. She will tell herself and her friends that you're just stressed at work, that you're busy with your hobbies, or that you're just playing a temporary game. This is her mind's way of coping, a subconscious shield protecting her from the reality that she might actually be losing you. She stays comfortable in the assumption that you are still sitting on her hook, waiting for her call. But day by day, as the silence stretches on, that comfortable assumption begins to shatter. The steady stream of validation she used to feed her ego suddenly runs completely dry. And that is exactly when a quiet, freezing panic begins to take root in her mind. To hide this sudden panic, her immediate reaction will be to play it entirely cool. She will put on a heavy mask of detachment. She might suddenly act freezing cold, take hours to reply to a basic text, or even drop a sharp, sarcastic remark when she sees you. If you don't understand human psychology, you will look at this cold behavior and assume she hates you or that she has completely moved on. But you need to see through the illusion. In female psychology, this artificial coldness is almost always a frantic defense mechanism. It is a desperate attempt to protect her pride and hide the terrifying realization that she no longer holds power over your attention. She acts like she cares the least precisely because she is suddenly feeling the pressure the most. Underneath that cold, unbothered mask, her mind is actually running a mile a minute. The silence you created becomes a loud, echoing chamber of doubt. Every single hour that passes without you reaching out forces her to ask herself the questions she never wanted to face. She starts wondering if you've finally realized your own worth, if you've moved on to a woman who appreciates you, or if you simply stopped caring about her entirely. By refusing to chase, refusing to react, and refusing to argue, you break the cycle of manipulation. Your absolute silence forces her to stand face to face with a mirror she spent months avoiding. She can no longer blame you for the distance. She is forced to sit in the quiet, heavy reality of accountability, finally understanding that her own actions, her own coldness, and her own neglect are the exact reasons why a good man finally chose to walk away. The moment a woman fully realizes she has lost a man who was genuinely, deeply invested in her, a massive psychological shift takes place. Her mind completely stops looking forward and begins frantically racing backward, replaying your history on a continuous loop. She starts dissecting every past conversation, every date, and every moment where you showed up for her. But she isn't doing this out of simple, sweet nostalgia. She is doing it out of pure disbelief and panic. Her brain is desperately trying to rewrite history, to make sense of a harsh new reality. How did she go from being completely desired and placed on a pedestal to being completely dismissed? To fix this internal chaos, she will begin throwing out subtle, calculated emotional feelers to try and reconnect the wiring that once made her feel secure. You will start noticing these shifts in her behavior immediately, and they will seem casual on the surface, but they are entirely intentional. She might randomly text you about an old inside joke you two shared, Or if you happen to be in the same room, she will laugh just a little bit louder at someone else's joke, just to make sure her voice cuts through the room to find you. She might send an innocent sounding text asking a trivial question, but that message carries a massive hidden agenda. She is too proud to ask you directly, "Do you still think about me?" or "Do you still care?" So instead, she uses these minor, low risk interactions as a test. It is a process of emotional recalibration. Her subconscious is trying to plug back into your energy because your attention was the exact fuel that made her feel validated and safe. This brings us to a major psychological truth most men completely miss. She doesn't just miss you as a person, she desperately misses the high value version of herself that existed when she had your undivided attention. Your validation was a mirror that reflected her importance and made her feel chosen, powerful, and desired. You were her emotional anchor, the stable, predictable force in her life that she thought would always be there, no matter how she acted. Now that you have pulled that anchor away, she is left drifting in uncertainty. Her ego and her heart are trapped in a brutal internal war. Her ego is screaming at her to stay strong, protect her pride, and pretend she doesn't care. Meanwhile, her heart is whispering the terrifying truth. What if you have moved on for good? And what if it is already too late to fix it? To cope with this internal war, many women will pivot directly into a heavy phase of social media performance. But you must understand the difference between a woman's performance and a woman's peace. Do not look at her Instagram stories, her Snapchats, or her status updates and assume she has effortlessly moved on. When a woman is truly content, genuinely happy, and at peace with her life, she doesn't feel the need to perform for a camera. She disappears into that peace. She lives in the moment rather than trying to document it. If she is suddenly and aggressively posting pictures of her going out, smiling excessively, looking glamorous, or showing off how happy she isn't living a great life. She is staging a production. And that entire production has an audience of exactly one person: you. Every single highly curated post is a calculated strike aimed directly at your psychology. She is performing specifically for your attention, desperately hoping that you will see her glowing, panic, and begin to wonder if you made a massive mistake by walking away. It is the classic age old art of appearing completely unbothered while emotionally burning to ashes on the inside. It is a toxic cocktail of pride mixed with intense pain, all wrapped up in a loud, public silence. She wants you to break first. She is watching your name on her viewer list, waiting to see if you will react, if you will text her, or if you will give her any sign that she still holds power over your emotions. Ultimately, her biggest fear in this entire dynamic isn't just that you will forget her or find someone else. Her true, deepest terror is the realization that your detachment is making you stronger. She is terrified that by stepping away from her, you are finally transforming into the exact high value, driven, and grounded man she always wanted you to be. But you are doing it right after she completely disqualified herself from your story. That realization doesn't just cause standard heartbreak, it shatters her identity. It forces her to live with the agonizing knowledge that she had a good man, took his energy for granted, and handed him the exact paint he needed to write his own success story without her in it. The moment a woman realizes she no longer holds any emotional influence over you, a profound shift happens in her subconscious mind. She suddenly begins to intensely crave the exact things she previously took for granted: your stability, your calm, your reassurance, and your underlying strength. In today's world, generic attention is a cheap, abundant commodity. Any woman can post a photo online and receive hundreds of shallow compliments and superficial messages within minutes. Attention is everywhere, but true, grounded, masculine presence is exceptionally rare. When you were fully invested, you provided an emotional depth and safety that cannot be easily replaced. Now that you have completely withdrawn that energy, she enters a phase of harsh comparison. She will start measuring every new man she meets, every casual date she goes on, and every text message she receives against the depth and standard you originally set. It won't take long before she realizes that these new, shallow interactions feel entirely empty. Your total absence suddenly becomes significantly more powerful and disruptive than your presence ever was, because the vacuum you left behind highlights exactly what she threw away. This internal void is what inevitably drives her to break the silence, but you must be fully prepared for how she does it. When she eventually reaches out to you, it will almost never be with a grand, vulnerable confession of her mistakes. Instead, she will test the waters with a completely trivial excuse. She might text you late at night asking if you still have an old t shirt of hers, send you a casual link to a video you might like, or pretend she accidentally bumped into you or misdialed your number. Do not make the amateur mistake of confusing her reaching out with genuine reconciliation or real change. More often than not, she isn't texting you because she is ready to love you right. She is texting you because she is looking for a quick fix to her own guilt, or she is trying to see if she still has the power to pull your strings and regain control of your emotions. If you immediately jump at the chance and pour your heart out, you'll instantly relieve her anxiety, hand her back the control, and prove that you are still sitting on her bench. Your absolute and only responsibility in this moment is to protect the high value man you became after she lost you. You worked hard in the quiet, painful moments to rebuild your discipline, your focus, and your self respect. Do not compromise that progress for a low effort text message. You must let her sit undisturbed in the heavy weight of the silence she created. Do not reply with anger, do not insult her, and do not try to explain yourself. Your calm detachment is not an active punishment or a petty game. It is simply the natural, unyielding consequence of her choosing to take a good man's energy for granted. When a woman experiences the cold reality that her actions have permanent consequences, her pride cracks. She realizes that she cannot mistreat you and still expect access to your life. Stand your ground, remain centered, and let the space do the talking. The man who has evolved past the need to chase, the man who possesses absolute emotional certainty and knows his own worth, is the only man a woman will ever truly and deeply respect.